Hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm Jill Trotterman, the host of Feeding the Family. And today we're talking about, is there enough food to feed everybody in the United States, or is there a distribution issue? Food scarcity is real. People are going hungry and have to make serious choices on where to spend their money. The U.S. produces enough food to feed everyone, yet in 2022, we estimated 49 million people, that is 1 in 6 in the US, are food insecure. 8 out of 10 have high food insecurity are found in the South. 9 out of 10 food insecure folks are rural. For children in Louisiana, almost 43% are food insecure, and the highest food insecurity for children, guess where that is? Los Angeles. So we have a serious issue going on here. To discuss this, I have with me today Danielle Wong, and she is the Healthy Food Program Director of Gray Bears. She does grant management, staff building, and community outreach. Danielle looks to build strong relationships with the community and to create meaningful change. We also have Kayla from Gray Bears, and she is the Development Director. Her last name is Traber. That's Kayla Traber. And also in the studio, we have Randall Hopper. He participates in the food distribution program, and he'll be joining us later as well. So let me share a little bit about this place I'm talking about called Gray Bears. This is a very special and unique place that improves the health and well-being of seniors and our community through food and meal deliveries, volunteerism, resource conservation, and recycling. Their vision is that all seniors live healthy, meaningful lives. Local, vital, and multifaceted, Gray Bears promotes good nutrition, activity, social connection as a perfect recipe for healthy aging. So, welcome everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So excited to have you guys. So, I know from personal firsthand experience that Gray Bears receives massive amounts of food. Through, I think you guys distribute about 110 million pounds of food through since 1973 to the community. So can you share, whoever wants to start, Kayla or Danielle, about where does this food come from, where is it going, and how is this helping our communities?
Yeah, last year, Gray Bears recovered about 1.9 million pounds of food. That's just 1 year alone, which is really incredible. And that is through the power of over 30 different partners that we have within our community. I'll let Danielle share about them.
Yeah, so we have a couple different programs that we do. So we have our main program, which is our Healthy Food for Senior bags. And through that, we distribute 4,000 bags of produce to seniors throughout the community. And that is food that comes from different food banks, local growers, local donors. Sometimes we glean produce from our neighbors. So right now it's a big lemon season. So we're gleaning a lot of lemons from people. And so we're distributing a lot of food through that and also getting a lot of food through that way. But then we're also picking up through Grocery Rescue, when we're picking up from over 25 different grocery stores and bakeries throughout the county, and we're doing that on a daily basis. And that's just food that they call cold, and it's just stuff that's maybe a little bit imperfect or maybe close to expiration date. That the stores don't think that they're going to be able to sell, or it doesn't reach the quality that they want to sell, but it's still edible, still good, so they'll donate it over to us, and we have a wonderful, wonderful crew of volunteers that do the pickup and then sort through it all and then help us redistribute it out to the community.
That's just amazing. So you're getting food from, like you mentioned, farms, right? Local farms here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, so like Lakeside Organics is one of them. They're just right here in Watsonville. Coke Farms is another one of them. And then we have a lot of local smaller farms like Everett Family Farms and Meter Street Farms. Sometimes the farmers can't make it all the way to the farmers market, or they're done with the farmers market for the day, so they'll come by and drop off everything that they couldn't sell or isn't going to make it to market.
Okay, so you guys are getting food from farms and local people too. You mentioned the word gleaning. So I think that Gray Bear started back in the 70s with some maybe hippie folk from UC Santa Cruz, and they realized that there was a lot of hunger going on in the senior community, and they started gleaning fruit trees. Could you share a little bit about what gleaning is, Kayla?
Yeah, gleaning is a traditional term that refers to picking up the second harvest that comes from your agricultural fields. From ancient times, this was a practice that allowed people that maybe didn't have access to food to be able to glean any leftover food from the fields, and that usually referred to like grains. And now we've kind of transitioned to this modern day gleaning from our local grocery stores. But when Gray Bear started in 1973, we were actually started by UCSC student Christina Maillard. And as one of her projects, she saw that seniors were having a really hard time putting food on the table, while at the same time there was so much food that was going to waste in our local agricultural fields. And in the UCSC spirit, she went, I think we can do something about that. And her and a group of her friends and community members would go and glean food from local agricultural fields and redistribute it to seniors. And that really grew to a seniors helping seniors model, where a lot of those seniors receiving the food wanted to make sure that others and their peers were able to receive the same benefits.
That's so beautiful. So seniors are in particular a vulnerable community, in addition to children, like I mentioned before. So with this Gray Bears program, you're also getting food from supermarkets, and there's so much waste going on. So Gray Bears, one of the beautiful things that you guys do is distribute all this extra food. So that means there must be a lot of food waste happening, and you guys are making the connection of those two things. So my opening question was, is there abundance of food or is there food scarcity?
I think it really just depends on where in the country you are. I mean, there's definitely enough food to go around, but depending on where you are, like you said, rural populations, that's where there's a lot of food deserts. You have to drive 40 miles to get to the grocery store, or even like here in like Bonnie Doon or Davenport, you got to drive all the way into town. And if you don't have the funds to be able to get there, or there's no bus, then how are you going to do that? But, Gray Bears is able to glean from these grocery stores over 1 million pounds of food each year, and we can redistribute that out to people. So that is enough food for people. I think one of the things that I've noticed as we collect food from the grocery stores is this food is still good. It's just a little imperfection. I think one of the things that Americans have a tendency is if it doesn't look good or if it's ugly, they don't want it. They want what's perfect. They want what looks good. They want what looks fresh. And, if that's not what's in the grocery store, they're not going to buy that. So it's really like a little bit of entitlement for people who are able to afford that food, right? And unfortunately, like, that food is going to waste. And then even think about, like, when you do go to the grocery store and then you're like, oh, I'm going to cook myself some broccoli and chard, and then a week later you're like, I forgot to cook the chard, and all that food is going to waste in your own fridge. And so there's a lot of food waste, not just in the grocery stores, but on an individual level as well, that I think, there is enough food to go around. We have to be a little bit more creative with it, and I think that's what Gray Bears really, that was what we started with, trying to be a little bit more creative of how to not let food go to waste.
Yeah, I think food waste is the third largest contributor of methane gas that comes from our landfills. And that just speaks to the enormity, I think, of the problem that we face. And we know that seniors are especially vulnerable to food insecurity, especially on that flip side, especially due to access to transportation, ability to cook their own food, and especially because they're on fixed incomes oftentimes. They don't always have a budget that can accommodate rising costs of food. So they are especially vulnerable to inflation. We know that the cost of food has risen dramatically in the past 10 years. So those rises in costs directly impact seniors and those on the bubble of being able to have a rising cost of living.
Right. That's fantastic. And part of one of the programs that you do is you drive these bagged foods out to your folks, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 30% of the individuals that we serve at through our healthy food program are homebound too. So those individuals really, are not always seeing someone every single day, having their needs checked on. So that trip, that visit by a volunteer really means the world to those individuals.
Yeah, and it's just really bringing up the concept of community. That what Gray Bears does is bring community together, and it reminds us of how we need each other. We're not individuals just living isolated lives. We really need the community to create abundance and to create health. And I had a small conversation with you, Danielle, about the volunteer program. And it's not just, we're just getting people to help bag up the groceries, but it's really profound, the impact that it makes on people's mental health. Can you speak to that, the volunteer psychology and the emotional impact that has on folks?
Yeah, well, we know that like socialization and like being lonely, it's a social determinant of health. And so last year we had 759 volunteers, and we are super volunteer heavy. We were like 90% run by volunteers, but we purposely try to create a community that people want to be a part of and have ownership in, because that is what makes a community and what makes you want to come back and help. And like, I think that's what started in the beginning of our program, 1973. The seniors, Christina Milliard at first just gave the food out to the seniors. And then eventually, like, the seniors were like, hey, we know how to glean from the fields. We've been doing this our whole lives. Santa Cruz is an agricultural community. We want to help out. We can do this, and we'll just share this with the people who can't be here. And that in itself created a community. And right now, where everybody is just being so divided, we want to create a place that, food brings us together. You eat together, we work together. Like every production day, we always have breakfast together as a team before we work at all. And that really just provides a space for people to get to know their neighbors, to get to know the problems they're going through, what's happening. Like if somebody doesn't show up for a few weeks, another person will ask us, hey, can you do a welfare check on Jennifer? We haven't seen her for a few weeks. Or, we haven't seen Yvette for a few weeks. Can you check on her? She said her daughter was sick. And we've had things like that. And we know when people are starting to, like we had a volunteer, we started noticing he kept forgetting things, or he kept moving from his post. And then I called his wife and I said, hey, you didn't know the year today. And she said, oh, he's going through Alzheimer's. And she's like, well, I'll make sure he doesn't come back. Like, we don't want it to be a problem. I said, no, we love having him here. And we just let everybody know, and everybody knew, because that's eventually, that's going to be everybody at one point, where you're going to need the community to take care of you, know what you're going through, and support you through that. So we knew we just had to be a little bit extra supportive with Bill. But, like, we wanted that kind of community where people are in support and they're doing something good for the community while they're making a community.
That is so touching. It really is. So I've had the great pleasure of being there at Gray Bears, and it totally blew me away. I told Danielle that it changed my life. So one of the first times, Randall and I actually did a cooking dinner once, and I was blown away. So people who haven't ever been there, there's two different programs. You have your meal program that you're doing the bagging, the food distribution every day, right, Monday through Friday. So you have 75 plus volunteers all in this room. And if people could get a visual, when you're at the grocery store, when the produce man is unpacking, or the produce lady is unpacking their big giant box of kale or vegetables, well, imagine that times 50 or 100. Am I not Am I right?
Yeah.
And then there's multiple stacks of these. And it really flipped me out. Like, this food, if it's not getting distributed to people, it's going into the compost or going into the landfill. And this blew my mind about that. So on any given day, through Monday through Friday, you have this great operation. What's different from that, from the one on Friday, when people in the community, nonprofits, come and they do their, what you guys call shopping in the parking lot?
Yeah, so there's a couple different programs there. So we have our healthy food bags. That production is only Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
And so that's where we have all of the food from that comes from like the food banks and large farms. But then every day, Monday through Friday, we have an on-site food distribution, which is open to the public and open to everybody. And
Really? It's open to the whole entire public, so it's not an age-restricted thing, so anybody can come? Oh, watch out.
I know.
It's okay. Just trickle in, everybody. Don't jump in tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday.
No, so actually that was actually something that changed during the fires. So before, like we said, we were like a volunteer run thing. You had to volunteer at least 2 hours to get food or to get lunch with us.
You mean the CZU fire that we had?
Yeah.
So people that don't know, because we are broadcasting through the world.
Oh.
So we here in Santa Cruz County had a massive fire about 2 years ago, 3 years now.
Yeah, so that big fire, I think in 2020, I guess 5 years ago.
I guess it was 5 years ago. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. My bad.
So that big fire, people were being evacuated and all this stuff, and we had all this food, and people were asking us, well, can you make meals to deliver to the people who are evacuated in the hotel rooms and everything? And we started doing that, but then there were still people who were like evacuated in their RVs, and so we said, well, why don't we just open up our food, on-site food distribution to other people, to the evacuees, and share the food we have. And we started doing that, and then we realized they have nowhere to cook. How are they going to cook this food? They just lost their homes. Everything's burned down. So we just started opening up our lunch to everybody. And it was slow at first, and we were like, okay, this is okay. And then, like, I think in the last couple of years, and I think Kayla knows more numbers than I do, but it's like 100%. Like, we used to be amazed if we could feed 60 people. Now we're like 200 people, and it's incredible.
And the food in the buffet, it's just like 6-foot tables, like 30 long, right? Is this correct? Yeah. Am I exaggerating?
It's amazing.
Tell me I'm not exaggerating.
Gray Bears is a place like no other where everyone literally sits at the table together to eat. And it is something so beautiful to really see everyone of all different ages and backgrounds coming together over food. Food is always such a great connector. And it is definitely a connector at Gray Bears as well. To speak to the growth that we've experienced in 2023 to 2024, we served 58,000 meals, and we actually ran the number for our calendar year, so all of 2024, and we actually served a record 63,000 meals.
Okay, my mouth is agape. This is fantastic, and all I'm thinking when you're describing all of these things is, I want Gray Bears to be everywhere, and that's what Randall, my friend, is saying too. Before I get to that, so different food banks are bringing food, right? So we know there's food banks across the United States. Is Gray Bears very unique in this situation, or are there other Gray Bears out there?
I think we're unique that we serve like seniors. We are senior focused. We're open to everybody, but we focus on seniors, and we're very, very volunteer heavy, and I think in that way we are very unique. But there are other organizations that do similar, like grocery store rescue like us, and I think there's like places in Maryland, there's a place in Iowa called DMARC, and that's a coalition of religious entities, and they span from like Christians to Jews and to Muslims, and they all work together to do grocery rescue, and then have a set of 14 pantries throughout all of Des Moines that are all together, and in that way they kind of share the same model that we do of having grocery store rescue.
I like this name, grocery store rescue, because like you're saying, if there's little blemishes, people turn their nose up at that. But we know that this food is perfectly good, so chop off the little bruise. Who cares?
Yeah, and actually California recognized that too in 2023, I think. They passed a law called SB 1383, which aimed to reduce greenhouse gases. And through that, they wanted to reduce food waste, which is what Kayla said was one of the highest contributors. And so it required grocery stores of a certain size to donate any edible food to a food recovery organization. So that's like Gray Bears. Here in Santa Cruz, that's the Valley Churches. In Watsonville, Loaves and Fishes also does it. So
Second Harvest Food Bank, is that part of that, or is that
yeah,
different?
Second Harvest Food Bank does it, but they go for larger food producers like Taylor Farms, and they are able to target larger farms. We go more for grocery stores and things like that, but they are also they also have to be in compliance with that law, and they did also require certain restaurants and catering companies like the Boardwalk and things like that to, or like even like the Ironman events where it's like the big marathons and they have all this extra food. That food needs to go to a food recovery organization at the end.
I'm thrilled to hear this because I think it's a trauma to see so much food go to waste. And so thank goodness, unfortunately, we have to have laws. And I think we almost had laws that you couldn't dumpster dive and take free food, and now they're changing that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's their way of saying, hey, we know that this food is still good and it's gonna go to a good place. You know, sometimes it's not like the best food. I think I saw like a Popeyes that was trying to like share their food, and that's kind of like, you know, the food desert, like food deserts are an issue, but there's also like the issue of a food swamp where there is food available, but the quality of food is very low, right? So maybe it's a lot of fast food, maybe it's a lot of liquor stores, where you're not in a food desert exactly, but like you're not getting fresh produce. And that's really what Gray Bears pushes is like fresh produce, fresh organic, as much as we can, organic produce, because that's really what's gonna make a healthier person.
Okay, you guys, this is so inspiring. Everybody out there, hold on tight. We're going to be right back. I'm Jill Trotterman with Feeding the Family, and I've got Danielle and Kayla and Randall here. We will be right back after a short break. Okay, folks, we are back. I'm Jill Trotterman with Feeding the Family. So we have been having a really engaging conversation about food abundance, food waste, food distribution, and I'd like to chat a little bit about that when people will become upset, violent when they're missing about 7 meals, I think. So this is another great thing that people can have access to with Gray Bears. And one of the other great things with Gray Bears is you guys have this crazy composting program. And I know in Santa Cruz County, we're all advocating for putting our food waste in the green bins if you're not doing your own home composting. So after the food is distributed to all the people and everyone is being fed, there still is some food left over. So Kayla, you want to tell us a little bit about the amazing compost program you have there too?
Sure. So Gray Bears actually has 2 composting programs on site. We have a turned auger-based composting. We also have vermicompost. Vermicompost is your worm bins, which is a really fun way to, if you're an avid gardener, to really utilize your food waste and create some really, really great nutrient-rich soil amendments for your plants. We have a group of volunteers that meet every single Friday that have self-acclaimed themselves the worm farmers, which is really fun. And they actually will help you set up your own worm bin. So if you are in the Santa Cruz area and you're interested in getting started with vermicompost, come by Gray Bears on Fridays at about 10 a.m. and the worm farmers will help you set up your first worm bin.
Okay. That's good. And do you put them in little boxes, and then people put the food waste in the box, and then the worms do their magic?
Yes, and worms are a little picky because they breathe through their skin. You can't really feed them food scraps that are cooked. So anything with oils, you can't really feed a worm because they can't breathe if they're covered in oil.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, so you have to, they're a little picky. The worms are mostly vegans. You want to feed them your fresh, like your maybe the tops of your carrots if you don't cook the tops of your carrots, even though it's delicious, highly recommend. Or the rinds of your melons, etc., which I found is actually a great way to also transfer your worms. You can cut open a cantaloupe or use the rind of a cantaloupe, and all the worms will congregate to the rind, and then you can move them around to the different trays. Just a fun little worm tip.
I love that because people are a little squirmish around worms, but they are super beneficial to our soil and they break down food.
They're amazing. They're the powerhouse of our little bug community, especially for our gardens. So save the worms.
Oh my gosh, and this is so great to teach kids. Do kids come to Gray Bears and do they have a similar mind-blowing experience?
It's amazing. We do field trips, which is a lot of fun. It's really cool to see kids really understand where their food waste goes and realize that even though it left your plate, it had to go somewhere. And it's really seeing them discover the different ways that food waste can be used both in our community to feed others, right? Diverting to seniors' plates and pantries, or also, with actual food waste, where does it go and how can we use it to forward the food cycle, which is really incredible.
It's great. And then tell us a little bit about the quality. Well, I don't know if this is expanding too much, but soil health. So for folks out there who want to compost, adding compost to your soil increases the nutrient quality, so then that transfers to the plants and eventually transfers to us humans. So it's super important. And then if the food waste isn't going to the compost bins, do farm animals get it too? Do farmers come and?
Yeah, so we work with a couple farmers that one is a pig farmer, and his piggies are being raised for butchers, so we can't feed them celery because that's a minus calories. But we do work sometimes with farmers and other people that feed their livestock. A lot of our volunteers have chickens and things like that. We have somebody who comes every Friday for her tortoises, and we'll give her the leafy greens that are sometimes kind of wilted and stuff that we can't really give to the seniors. So like a lot of our seniors, are not a lot, but there are a few seniors signed up for our healthy food bag that are blind. So we don't want to put anything in there that they're not going to be able to see. And that's only people who are admitting that they're blind, right? So, but we have another composting system in addition to the vermiculture. It's 6 large earth tubs that Kayla was saying is like an auger one that actually makes compost. We put all of the food that we couldn't utilize in the bags in there because it was moldy or wilted or for whatever reason, and we get about, I think, like 12,000 pounds of food waste saved through that a month, and then we get really great compost out of it, and that goes back into the soils, and that for us is like a circular kind of economy type of thing where we got the food from here in Santa Cruz, from the food bank or from the local farmers. We're making sure that it goes into the bodies of Santa Cruz citizens, seniors, children, or families, and then if it doesn't, it's hopefully going back into the ground here in Santa Cruz, so that we're like thinking on a global scale but working locally. And our compost, from what I've been told, is really, really good. And we do sell it in our thrift stores, and the proceeds from that go back into supporting our food program.
Amazing. Tell us more, Kayla, about all the other great things, because I know you have a huge recycling program, and Gray Bears is amazing. So come internationally and come visit. I'll give you a tour.
Yes. I think one of the things that makes Gray Bears so incredibly unique and really a place like no other is that Gray Bears, it runs on a sustainability model. So in addition to gleaning the food, and the vast majority of our food is sourced from gleaning We also power our program financially, largely through our thrift store and our recycling program. Last year, the Gray Bears thrift store had 120,000 transactions. So that just really tells the testament of the community support. And we were actually voted best thrift store of 2025 by the Good Times.
Yay. And best volunteer
Yeah.
organization too, is that right?
Yeah, best nonprofit too.
Best nonprofit.
Yes.
That's what I meant to say. That's amazing. So you guys got 2 awards from our local paper.
Yes, and
Congratulations.
thanks. And then the other side of that is our recycling. So we partner with Santa Cruz County to operate 2 recycling facilities at the local landfills. We have one at Buena Vista, and then we also have one at the Ben Lomond Transfer Station. And both of those areas are, we encourage everyone to visit the recycling first, see what you can recycle. Following the 3 R's, we want to reuse first, and then we want to recycle before we throw anything away. And all the proceeds from recycling actually go to support the Healthy Food Program. So it really does help support us and support a more sustainable Santa Cruz.
Yay. These are great examples that people around the country can use and implement. So let's see. I also wanted to talk to you guys about, are people's habits changing because of Gray Bears, because of the awareness that this is bringing up? Are people more mindful about, wow, like you mentioned, oh, that kale or the collards I didn't eat in my refrigerator. Do you think this ups people's consciousness when they're grocery shopping, when they're cooking? Do you think that this changes?
I'd like to think so. I think one of the things that is helping with people is the different kinds of foods that we get, right? So we're really lucky that we have Lakeside Organic in our backyard, who's a wonderful food producer, but they produce very niche and specific produce.
Like what kind of niche things?
Like golden beets, komamatsu, which is like similar to bok choy. They do bok choy. They do rhubarb. They do collard greens, dandelion greens.
Like Mizuna.
Mizuna, yeah.
Who doesn't want a whole tray of that?
So I think that's like helped people to expand their repertoire of the vegetables that they eat. I think that's a comment that we get that's like, I would have never thought I liked parsnips, but now I'm eating parsnips. And that's because that's something that we get. And I think that variety, but then also like people becoming more creative with soups and salads and saying that they're eating salads every day and that they didn't think they could eat so much vegetables in their diet, which is a huge plus for us. I think just being more creative with what is coming in. And then I think the people who come to our on-site food distributions, I don't want to say that we've trained them, but they know now that the food that we are distributing is not going to be top shelf Whole Foods food, like bright and shiny, but they know that it's going to be edible and it's going to be good, and they can still get a really good, nutritious, wholesome bag of food out of it. And they're really grateful and they're really happy to have that. And I think it's also like our seniors are teaching the younger generation, hey, like, don't worry, just cut that off. Like it's just a little brown spot, just cut that off. It's just a little oxidation, just eat it. And it's really interesting to hear like what our volunteers that have gone through the Great Depression or have parents from the Great Depression, what they will say about certain things versus like some of the younger people. But even like we have a volunteer, she's from Germany, and she volunteered to live in, I think, like East Berlin when the wall was up. And she was like, you really had to just get whatever you got, and everybody here is spoiled, and we just need to just eat what we can get, and they just stop wasting all this food. And so she's very much like our number one conservationist, and people are learning from her. And I think that's where all of our generations all live together at Gray Bears, and then use food as a good way to learn about things. So yeah, hopefully it's changing behaviors.
Yeah, I think in our latest survey, we saw about 80% of seniors receiving the bags said they had increased their servings of fruit and vegetables. And we did see also that seniors had been eating foods that they hadn't been previously eating. And we know that that is just so important for health. The Surgeon General recommends a wide, varied diet to be able to improve health and well-being for especially for seniors, being able to adequately receive the nutrition that you need through your diet and through your food.
I love that. And so people, so they're eating healthy, they're getting all these unique vegetables that they might not normally get at the grocery store because of these niche farmers who are growing these really unique food crops, and that's just getting transferred to the seniors. And it's really fascinating to have all the different generations there, and that people can speak to what that looked like when they did have real serious scary food scarcity, and how they could just clean up their potato and do all that to make it better, because we are really picky in the United States with our quality, and we want our apples shiny and waxed. And
Yeah, and
I don't want a shiny waxed apple, but I like my Gray Bears, my bag of groceries I get.
yeah, I like didn't realize I grew up over the hill in the Bay Area, and I didn't realize that apples are not naturally shiny. And so, like, I think you're right. Like, we're really lucky that we live in the Santa Cruz area, that we have these, like, beautiful farmers that can share their beautiful produce with us, and we're not, like, I don't know, where they only grow corn. And,
Yeah, the Midwest.
yeah, so I think we're really lucky in that way. And our food banks are really kind, and hopefully will continue to share their food with us, and despite everything that's going on. So super fun.
Right. Now, what do you mean by what's going on? Is there some legislation or some issues with our
Well, right.
government that's...
Yeah, a
Do
little
you want
bit.
to talk about that?
I guess.
Let's spill the beans.
Well, right now, with all of the cuts, the Santa Cruz County Food Bank is going to be experiencing a $500,000 cut to their USDA program. And the USDA program for the food banks in America usually provide like cheeses and proteins and milk and all those kinds of things. And what that program does is buy excess food from American farmers and redistribute it out to the different food banks throughout the entire country. That funding is being cut. That food is still there. It's just that funding to buy that food is being cut. And so now a lot of food banks are trying to readjust to this new change. And then in addition to that, CalFresh, or what is known as food stamps, will also be cut. So that's in California, $78 million is being proposed to be cut. And in Santa Cruz County, there's 33,000 people that use CalFresh or food stamps. So that means that there's going to be a huge cut in the number one way people try to get food assistance. And then there's also going to be a cut to the food bank and then the supply of food. So we're really lucky at Gray Bears that we are part of the grocery food program, our rescue program. So we ride the fluctuation of grocery stores, not necessarily the federal government, but we will be impacted because we do get about 30% of our food from the food banks as well. So, but we do focus more on produce, and we don't have a high protein giveaway that we get from the food banks. So in that way, hopefully we're lucky, but we will still be affected. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting year once that starts to kick in.
Yeah, that's just stupid, honestly, because here we are, you guys are trying to solve the problem of food insecurity, distribution issues, and now they're going to essentially hamper these efforts. It seems so counterintuitive to do that. So do we have to go more local, like more local government, to make sure these things are happening and not count on the federal government for this?
Yes, and we're just shout out to Santa Cruz County for being really great at being, remaining apprised of the situation and being willing to hear, our challenges and our impacts. Also, the local community foundation has been really receptive to hearing funding challenges that we've been facing and our partners have been facing. I think something that is certainly going to be impacting gray bears as well is not just the cuts to this food, but also the number of people that are no longer able to use CalFresh are going to still need food from other sources, which means that we're probably going to see an influx at gray bears, right?
Right.
Of people that are looking for alternative sources to food. So as we approach the silver tsunami, which refers to the growing senior population in Santa Cruz County, at the same time we're being met by this really likely dramatic increase of individuals of all ages needing food.
It's true. The kids. Can you speak on the families, like families, moms and dads with young children? Can you share about, are they experiencing
Yeah,
issues too?
so Gray Bears is focused mostly on senior population,
Right.
but we have seen families starting to come in to get food more and more, and that is, something that's a little bit unprecedented. I think we're also starting to see people who have never experienced food insecurity in their life. Maybe a lot of people are still working. They have good paying jobs, but maybe there's high rent. They're just experiencing food insecurity on a whole new level, something that they've never really had to deal with before. And that's why, like at Gray Bears, when we have our food distribution, we don't ask for any verifications. We don't ask for income. I just need to know like the zip code you live in, but we don't care if you're giving us a fake name or a real name. We just want to reduce barriers. We want to reduce the shame of having to ask for food assistance. I think food is like a human right, and people should feel like they shouldn't feel shame when they're going to pick up food. And we do talk about it briefly. We do share our food with other food charities and nonprofits in the community that also feed families. And I have seen more and more people come out. I know Randall, he's up in Zayante feeding all the families out there, and he's been doing that for quite a while. And I know he's feeding people out in Zayante and also people out in La Selva that are needing the food that are out in these far places. And I know that we've seen an increase in the amount of people that have come. We are feeding about, at our on-site food distribution, anywhere between 700 to 800 families. So that's just once a month, in addition to the other 4,000 senior households that we're sending out bags of food to. So hopefully, our creative distribution is going to help cushion that wave of CalFresh reduction. But it just remains to be seen. I think we have really creative people in the community that really care a lot, and people that want to help. And we see that through our volunteers every day, and then we see it through people like Randall and yourself when doing things that revolve around food insecurity and trying to help the community. So hopefully all the good people will come out.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So what other things you guys want to share about Gray Bears? And in our last few, we have definitely a few more minutes. So food abundance. So clearly there's food out there, and you guys, we're doing distribution. Are there ways to encourage people to grow more trees, more gardens? Is that anything that Gray Bears does? Like creating food at their home?
Actually,
growing?
This is actually how I met Randall. There was an organization, I forgot what it was called.
Feeding the World International.
Feeding the World International. After the fires, this group came to Gray Bears, and they had a bunch of blueberries and raspberries, and they were like, hey, hazelnut trees, apple trees, and they were like, we have hundreds of these, and we want to distribute them, and we'll bring them to the people, we'll bring them to the senior households. And then I don't remember how I met you, but I remember talking to you and we're like, this is perfect for all of the burn scars that are now happening throughout the areas that the CZU fire burned. And you were like, Randall was really willing to help collect those raspberry bushes and hazelnut trees and
Green apples.
green apples and replant them. And I think that's really something that Randall advocates for is
Yeah.
food sovereignty.
Thank you, Randall. Can you share a little bit about that? And I know you've also brought seeds, seedlings, and little plants to Gray Bears. You want to share your story about that?
Yeah, it's been a great journey. I learned through Feeding the World International, which was a nonprofit set up, and they distributed so many trees, and their vision was to plant food by where we live, and that was a success. She had spent a lot of money to buy those plants out of her own pocket, and she donated all of them. And so we just need more donations of plants, and I've reached out to nurseries to see what kind of plant donations we can get. And recently I've met Grow Technologies, Inc., which is a Salinas-based starts company that supplies the plants to farmers. And they're willing to donate some plants and other starts companies, and just giving away plants to people has been a great success. With all the feedback I get from our groups of people we feed, they're interacting with the garden more, and they're watching their plants grow, and it's been a huge success. And we've also gotten donations from Renee's Garden, which is a local seed company, and they'll send out 500 packets of seeds to any non-for-profit. A lot of their older seeds are still viable, and this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all the seed companies who have organic seeds, just getting the seeds to the people. And it's part of reconnecting with nature and to produce enough food, because we can produce enough food, and to do a little stitch in time. And it's been a big success.
I love that. Thank you so much for doing that, Randall. And I know for a fact that I've grown seedlings from the plants that you've given away, because that's how it's supposed to work. Like a carrot doesn't make one seed. A carrot plant makes thousands of seeds, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's like what they did during World War II, right? They made victory gardens when there was
Right.
food insecurity and people grew their own food. And I think if that's something that we're going to have to start maybe training people to get back in the garden, if they have garden space, or doing it in pots and wherever, or tomato plants, and just being able to see something grow is also very, very satisfying.
Right? Growing community gardens. In fact, in Atlanta, they have a lot of food issues there. There's a lot of disparity amongst the community. And they just they're growing a 7-acre food forest for the community. And they're trying to apparently there's a lot of land in Atlanta, not here in Santa Cruz. We're building a lot. But that's another story. That's another show. But that's something that's really admirable, is so people can go in and get food and glean their fruit from the trees right in their own garden. I think that's just super special. So you, Dan, Kayla, wanted to share about some more of the Gray Bear programs and events you guys have coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, sure. We'll do a couple plugs.
Yeah, plug away. Tell us all the good stuff. You know I'm a big fan of everything you guys do. So I'm all ears.
Awesome. Well, Gray Bears, in part of our spirit of whole nourishment, we know that food is so much more than what we put on our plates. It's the community that we make. It's the connections that we foster. So in that spirit, Gray Bears also offers classes. So if you're in the Santa Cruz area, you can take advantage of that. On Wednesdays, we have a Spanish class that meets at 12 p.m. and it goes till 1:30. And then on Fridays, we also have chair yoga, which is a workout. It is hard.
Okay.
And that's a lot of fun, and that's at 9:30. And then we also have women's groups that meet. So if anyone's interested, they can go on our website and contact Deb Abbott, who is the teacher for those classes and facilitator, to get connected with those. We also have a few events coming up. We have our Spring Fling, And that is going to be May 15th, and that's going to be from 4 to 7. And that's a party to get seniors out of the house, maybe dance a jig if you're so inclined. You can think of it like a senior prom.
That's so great.
And then Gray Bears is really proud to also be part of the Coalition to End Homelessness. We know that while homelessness is decreasing in Santa Cruz County overall slightly, we know that the largest share that is increasing in homeless and people that are experiencing homelessness are seniors. And that's a huge dilemma. And we are, serving people meals. We know from a point in time count that about 20% of the people that receive a meal from Gray Bears are experiencing housing insecurity. So we're really happy to be part of over 30 different organizations that touch homelessness in different ways in the community, whether that be with direct services or indirect services.
Cool.
And there is a March to End Homelessness in Santa Cruz downtown on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. So if that is something that is of interest to you, we welcome you to come check it out.
Yeah, good to know. I mean, these things go hand in hand, right? Human prosperity, our mental health, our community experience. We're all in it together. So if one person's suffering, we're all suffering essentially, right?
We're all people.
We're all
It's
people. We all
true.
love each other. And we are so blessed to be here in Santa Cruz County. Folks, we only have less than a minute left. So your website, graybears.org.
Yep, graybears.org. You can also reach us on the phone at 831-479-1055.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. Again, I'm Jill Trotterman, and I do have a plug, too. I have a plant propagation class. That kind of comes in, maybe I could teach a class also at Gray Bears on plant propagation.
We would love to have
But
you. Yes.
we'll cross-pollinate each other. And so my class is May 31st. It's a Saturday. So you can check out my website, santacruzholisticnutrition.com. And that's it, folks. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.